My name is Emma Carter, and for 7 years, I believed my husband was the most supportive person in my life. Then I discovered he had been secretly telling my family that I was going to lose everything. The strange part? I was the one who owned everything. It started with a phone call from my younger sister, Rachel. "Emma, are you okay?" I was sitting in my office when she called. "Of course, why?" There was a pause. "Because Mom said you and David are having financial problems." I frowned. "What financial problems?" Rachel lowered her voice. "She said David told her you might have to sell the house." I almost laughed. "Rachel, we're not selling our house." That's what I thought. Why would David tell Mom that? I don't know. Neither did I. At least not yet. My husband David had always handled most of our household finances. Not because I couldn't. Because I trusted him. I owned a small chain of 3 luxury flower shops that my mother had started before she retired. The business was doing extremely well. We had recently opened our 3rd location. Our house was completely paid off. We had savings. There was absolutely no reason for anyone to think we were struggling. So I called David. "Did you tell my mother we're having financial problems?" He laughed. "What?" "Mom thinks we're going to sell the house." "That's ridiculous." "Did you tell her that?" "No." His answer came too quickly. I noticed, but I didn't accuse him. "Okay," I said. "I'll talk to you later." That evening, David came home carrying flowers. Ironically, he had bought them from one of my own shops. "Peace offering," he said. "For what?" "Because you sounded upset this morning." I smiled. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe Rachel had misunderstood. I kissed him, and for the next few days, I forgot about it. Then something happened that I couldn't ignore. One of my employees, Jessica, came into my office. She looked nervous. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you closing the downtown store?" I stared at her. "No." She looked confused. "David told me you were." I stood up. "When did he tell you that?" "Yesterday." My heart started beating faster. "Did he say why?" "He said business wasn't doing well." I sat back down. Business wasn't doing well? Our downtown store had just had its best month in 5 years. That night, I waited for David to come home. When he walked through the door, I was sitting at the dining table. "We need to talk." He looked at me. "About what?" "Why are you telling people my business is failing?" He froze. "What are you talking about?" "Jessica," he sighed. "Emma, you're misunderstanding." "Then explain." He sat down. "I was trying to prepare people." "For what?" He didn't answer. "David," he finally looked at me. "You don't understand how risky the business is." I laughed. "Risky? You've been spending too much." "On what?" "Expansion." "You encourage the expansion." I was wrong. I stared at him. "You've never said that before." He looked away. Then he said, "Maybe you should consider selling the company." I felt like I'd been slapped. "No. Emma, listen. No. This business is consuming your life. It belongs to me." "I know." "Then why are you trying to convince me to sell it?" He stood up. "Because I'm your husband and I'm trying to protect you." I shook my head. "From what?" He didn't answer. That night I couldn't sleep. The next morning I called my accountant. "Send me the last 12 months of financial statements." She sent them immediately. I opened the files. Everything looked normal, until I noticed several large transfers. $18,000, $24,000, $31,000, all going to a company called Carter Business Solutions. I had never heard of it. I called my accountant. "What is Carter Business Solutions?" She paused. "Isn't that your husband's company?" My stomach dropped. "My husband has a company?" "Yes." "How long?" "About 2 years." I sat completely still. David had never told me. I searched the company registration. The business address was a small office building across town. I drove there that afternoon. I sat in my car and watched the entrance. 20 minutes later, David walked out. With another woman. She was holding a folder. They hugged. Then David kissed her on the cheek. I felt sick. I took pictures. I wanted to confront him immediately. But something stopped me. I needed the truth. That evening, David came home as if nothing had happened. "How was your day?" "Busy." He kissed me. I looked at him. "Who is Melissa?" His face changed. "What?" "Melissa." He became silent. I put my phone on the table. The photographs were on the screen. David sat down. "Emma, Who is she? She works with me. On what? He didn't answer. Your secret company? He looked shocked. How did you find out? That's your concern? He rubbed his forehead. I was going to tell you. When? When everything was ready. What was going to be ready? He finally said, I created another company to manage some of your business investments. I stared at him. Without telling me? I was trying to diversify. Then why were my company funds being transferred to it? Because I was investing them. Where? He had no answer. I stood up. I'm calling the bank tomorrow. He grabbed my arm. Emma, don't. I pulled away. Don't touch me. His voice became desperate. You don't understand what you've found. Then explain. He looked at me. I owe money. My anger disappeared for a moment. How much? Almost $400,000? I couldn't believe it. What kind of debt? Business debt. Your business? He nodded. Then I realized what had happened. He had been taking money from my company to cover his own debts. I asked, Does Melissa know? He looked away. She helped me. Did you have an affair with her? No. I didn't believe him. The next morning, I went to the bank. The manager showed me something that made my blood run cold. There were several attempts to transfer ownership of one of my stores. The paperwork had my name on it. But I had never signed it. Someone had forged my signature. I immediately called my attorney. Within hours, we froze every major transaction. Then I confronted David one last time. I placed the documents on the table. You tried to sell my store. I was going to pay everything back. With my money? Yes. You stole from me. I was desperate. You lied to me for 2 years. I was scared. You were scared? I looked at him. I was your wife. He started crying. I thought if I fixed everything, you would never know. I shook my head. You didn't want to fix anything. He looked confused. You wanted to hide it. He lowered his head. I packed my suitcase that night. Before leaving, I looked around our house, the place where I had spent 7 years believing I was loved. Then I said something I never thought I'd say. You didn't lose me because you made a mistake. He looked at me. You lost me because you kept choosing the lie. 3 months later, the investigation uncovered more than $600,000 in unauthorized transfers. David's secret company was shut down. Melissa cooperated with investigators. The store he had tried to sell remained mine, and my business survived. But the biggest surprise came later. My accountant called me one morning. We found something else. What? There was one account David never told you about. Whose name was on it? Yours. I froze. What? She sent me the documents. The account had been opened years earlier. My father had created it for me before he died. It contained enough money to cover every dollar David had stolen. My father had apparently anticipated that one day I might need a safety net. I sat in my office and cried. Not because of the money, because my father had believed in me long before I believed in myself. That evening, I went into the oldest flower shop, the one my mother had opened. I walked through the empty store after closing. I looked at the flowers, the photographs, the old wooden counter, and I realized something. David had spent 2 years trying to convince me that I was losing everything. But he was wrong. I hadn't lost everything. I had lost him. And honestly, that was the one loss I could finally afford. Today, my business is stronger than ever. I opened 2 more locations. I hired a new financial team, and I personally review every major transaction, but I also learned something much more important. Trust doesn't mean closing your eyes. Love doesn't mean ignoring warning signs. And being someone's wife doesn't mean giving them control over everything you've worked to build. Sometimes the person standing beside you isn't protecting your future. Sometimes they're planning to own it. And when you finally discover the truth, you have 2 choices. You can spend the rest of your life asking why they betrayed you. Or you can turn around, walk away, and start building a life they can never control again. I chose the second one, and I've never regretted it.